topic to be talking to you about because I'm kind of a zealot about this, and in trying to find out how I could talk to you, I'd just like to let you know I belong to a fan page on Facebook's called I'm Not Yelling at You, I'm Italian, This Is How I Talk. So if you feel confronted, see me afterwards. How many people here work for companies that give back to youth programs? I'm going to assume every company does, all right? Now, you don't have to raise your hand on this, but how many companies give cash as opposed to in kind? All right. The point I'd like to make in the 5 minutes that I have is that we are underutilizing our resources and not leveraging them to outside dollars in order to bring more kids into our sport. So I'm going to run through, I wanted to look smart, so I stole a couple of really good graphs from people. I sent this all to you about 3 hours ago. Most of you are showing up out of office, not working right now, so you'll get it after the 15th of March. But let me go through this real quick here, and I'm not going to get into these. You could look at them. But this is, if you just flip through them, this is saying that there's 9 million skiers and snowboarders. It's only grown at a rate of less than 1%. There's a new statistic out that 20% of level 1 lessons, or level 1 lessons have declined by 20% over the last several years. The next slide, please. We have this real great technology going on, Chris and I. Is that, I'm going to go through this. I want to jump down because I've probably only got 3 more minutes. So if you could go to the next one. These are all things that were covered by either Kelly or David. It just goes into a little bit further. Next one, please. One more. Keep going. Keep going. All right, this is an interesting one. These slides are from RRC out of Boulder. They do all of the trending analysis for the National Ski Areas Association. And a way to summarize this is the population of skiers and snowboarders are aging, and it's not being filled in by people who are at their best buying power. So the people who are coming up after me, the Gen Xers, there's less of you, and you don't have the same amount of aggregate buying power until the Gen Yers come in. That means there's going to be about a 10% drop by the year 2020 in numbers of skiers and snowboarders in the United States. Is that relatively all information you already know? Okay. So what I don't see a lot of times in the presentation, you could go to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one, is that our population under the age of 20 is changing. A stat came out today that we're at the tipping point. There are more minorities being born in America right now than there are whites. If you look around the room right now, unless I'm, not too good at this, but we're a very Caucasian conference. When I go to the trade show, I've gone to 16 SIA trade shows. I've been to about 15 NSAA trade shows. It's really great, I meet a lot of Caucasians, and it's really important to me because I like to diversify my friends. So that, but we're not really trying, what we've done is there's about 15 nonprofits in the United States, so I'm going to move towards solution. If you could go to the last slide where there's a bunch of balloons. This just shows that the population is moving. Is to put out there a solution to how we can not only help kids but help ourselves. You all are running a business. You have to make a profit. And I'm sure most of you are down with OPP. And so this is a formula for using other people's resources, mostly foundations in the federal government, to come in and give us youth developmental dollars. So SOS and Chill and Yes and a dozen other nonprofits signed a partnership agreement. So we could stop competing against one another and have a national footprint that already works with about 20,000 kids, getting them outside to go to either Michelle Obama's program called, I think it's called Move It. Have you heard about that? She just launched it because this is the first population of young people who will have a shorter life expectancy than any other population beforehand. 1 in 3 children are obese. 20% have mental health issues, 50% of minority males will not graduate high school. And these are the type of real trends that are affecting all the individualized sports. So if I go to OR, or if I go to SIA, all of us are doing sports in the summer and winter that are mostly white sports. But the population that's coming up is much more diversified. And so you have to change, what the solution would be that I'd like to put out there is to have leadership around values of not just giving back, but trying to collaborate the resources. So rather than bifurcate the dollars, somebody might be given to a program locally. If they're a shop, they have a 10-mile radius thinking. If it's a ski resort, it might be a 2-hour. If it's a manufacturer, it might be national or globally. But we're only a $30 billion industry, folks. When you take summer and winter sports and you take the 400 resorts and the 400 brands, it's only $30 billion. Anyone want to guess how much cocaine trafficking out of Colombia is? Just to use it as a comparison, so we could tell everyone how small of an organization. $300 billion. But we're also one that's very well connected. So, for example, Vans is owned by Vanity Fairs. Vanity Fair owns about 25 brands. All of the brands are doing some form of giving. K2 and Marmot is owned by Jardin, which also owns Rawlings, Mr. Coffee, and Oyster, by the way. And then Amir owns Sunto Watches, Salomon, Precor, Wilson. Vail owns 5 ski resorts. C&L owns 15 ski resorts. Powder Core owns about 15 ski resorts. So there's a concentration of about 10% of the people in the industry are managing about 80% of the revenues. And one of the jobs that I get to do, that I'm very blessed to do, is try to find dollars in the federal government and try to get the people who are running these corporations to position themselves to ask for dollars. Because our competition is things like soccer groups for obesity dollars. Not skiing versus snowboarding, not West Coast versus East Coast or whatever you want, boys versus girls. It's called after-school activities. And what I've sent you, that's a follow-up document that I'm sure you'll want to read tonight, and we could discuss it at breakfast tomorrow, so I'll meet you all here about 7:30, is that if we could agree, after you've read this, to lend your support and the way you're doing your giving, I will bet you that you are not necessarily giving properly. You're not giving it to nonprofits that are doing best practices that are using outside dollars. SOS raises $800,000 a year. My middle name is Rejection. I've raised no money from manufacturers. Almost no money, except from K2 and a couple of others, and about half of you here give in-kind product to groups like SOS, and we really appreciate that. We need that to put gloves, goggles, hats together for kids. But ski resorts gives the rental equipment, the instructors, and the resorts. Many of you give the manufacturing equipment, but we have to raise those 15 organizations around $2 million to operate adult role models and mentors to do youth developmental programming to succeed in getting foundational grants. So again, out of that $800,000 that we raise, only about $50,000 of it comes from manufacturers, retailers in the ski industry, ski resorts. The rest comes from goodwill people and foundations. And that's the down with OPP part. That's the part where other people are helping us grow our industry that aren't even in our industry, because we're telling a story that we can improve motivation and engagement, test scores in school, getting kids to graduate, watching out with teaching positive choices, prevention, intervention, and treatment type programs. So snowboarding and skiing and all of these individual sports show on evaluative outcome great results in building self-esteem. Should I tell 2 more jokes? And than the silver bullet.
Because you're the person on the panel that's closest to the resorts, you said you work with 40 some odd resorts. Tell us about what their mindset is. What kind of buy-in do you have from the place where sport actually takes place and their willingness to do their part in bringing new people into sport?
Right. Well, every ski resort gives something. Every resort. But again, the idea is that it's not being given under one initiative. The outdoor industry has an initiative called Outdoor Nation that they're launching, but it's mostly just getting kids out and getting them excited in Central Park. I mean, there's only one thing you try in your life for the first time that you want to try for the rest of your life. And it ain't skiing and snowboarding. No? So, but all of the programs that are out there, did anyone get that? Was that not funny? I won't use that anymore. You use sex, and then you want to do sex more, but you don't try snowboarding one time, and then you want to do snowboarding for the rest of your life, especially if you're a girl, it looks like. So you need to continue trying to do a long-term relationship where there's not only on-hill but off-hill. So Doug, to answer your question, what happens at NSA every May is they get together, they look at some of these same statistics, and then they go and break out and they think short-term. What am I going to do? What's my ROI, or what am my profit for this year? Instead of trying to figure out how could we go after federal dollars from the Department of Education. And what's going on right now is a group of us are talking with senators and congressmen to find grants in the federal budget in order to get appropriated to our programs.
I guess let me refocus my question. You're talking about the next big opportunity being multicultural millennials.
Right.
Are the resorts aligned that multicultural millennials represent a great opportunity, a great business opportunity for them?
Yes.
They